Hi, everybody, and welcome back to White Knowledge is Power, Understanding Racism in America and Why White People Should Know Black History. As many of us are aware, the relationship between people of color and law enforcement is one rife with mistrust, tension, and wrongful punishment. This rift is nothing new, and I would be inclined to say that one of its strongest roots is the existence of sundown towns. What are sundown towns, you may ask? Sundown towns, also known as sunset towns, were all-white communities, neighborhoods, and counties that excluded Blacks and other minorities through the use of discriminatory laws, harassment, and threats or use of violence. The name sundown came from verbal warnings and posted signs in some towns that said, quote, N-word, don't let the sun go down on you in fill in the blank of the city's name, end quote. So it'd be like, N-word, don't let the sun go down on you in Rochester, end quote. If people of color found themselves in these areas while traveling, there would be no stopping or pulling over because there was a very serious reality that you would be harassed, threatened with violence, beaten up, lynched if you were caught by the wrong crowd after dark. Some towns would promote the fact that they were a sundown town. They'd used postcards and ads that would say things like, a good place to live, no Negroes, and cool summer, mild winters, no blizzards, no Negroes. These towns started to gain prominence after the Civil War and the passing of the Reconstruction Amendments. The Reconstruction Amendments were the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments that abolished slavery, granted equal rights to formerly enslaved people, and ensured the right to vote for people of all races. These towns sprang up at a time of reassertion of white control in the South that eventually led to the Jim Crow era and the regression of basic civil rights for Black people. And something I didn't know was that most of these towns weren't in the South. They were predominantly located in the Midwest, Appalachia, the Ozarks, and the West. So great. Not only are Black people unwelcome to live in most places, but they can't even pass through safely. The Negro Motorist Green Book, otherwise known as the Green Book, was created by a Harlem postal worker named Victor H. Green as a way for Black people to travel and navigate their way across the country. As an example, let's say, as a Black man, you and your family wanted to take a vacation trip along the historic Route 66 route. Well, that's all well and good, but 44 of 89 counties along Route 66 from Chicago to LA had no motels or restaurants available to you and your family because you were Black. The Green Book would allow you to plot out your trips and know where the places you'd be able to stay or gas up your vehicle or stop for necessities and food would be. Civil rights leader John Lewis recalled a family trip from 1951 saying, quote, there would be no restaurant for us to stop at until we were well out of the South. So we took our restaurant right in the car with us. Stopping for gas and to use the bathroom took careful planning. Uncle Otis had made this trip before, and he knew which places along the way offered colored bathrooms and which were better just to pass on by. Our map was marked and our route was planned that way by the distances between service stations where it would be safe for us to stop, end quote. It wasn't until after the Civil Rights Movement and the Fair Housing Act of 1968 that sundown towns started to drastically decline, although they do still exist today. I think it's especially important to note that sundown towns became prominent after a massive victory with the North winning the Civil War. And just as Black people started integrating into society, these towns popped up, making the climb out of slavery onto even footing near impossible. And there was a significant regression until the upheaval of protests and action resulting from the Civil Rights Movement that eventually led to further laws being put in place to eradicate racism in our country, where we still have a lot of work to do. All that to say, this country is currently going through a massive time of regression when it comes to equal rights for people. But let us remember that even through regression, there's an even more powerful wave of progression ready to take its place. So that's why we can never give up hope for change and for a better tomorrow. Thank you so much for watching. If you like today's content, please share, like, subscribe. Let's continue to educate ourselves, and let's end racism together.